to the UIAAA Connection podcast. GoFan and VNN are proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection. Now a combined company, GoFan and VNN provide a seamless integration for digital ticketing and athletic websites. Direct your fans to one place for all your athletic events, communications, and tickets to home and away games. Thank you to GoFan and VNN for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch Hunter. Today we have as our special guest, Judkins, former player in the NBA, former player at the University of Utah, former coach at BYU women's basketball, and assistant coach at the University of Utah. Welcome to the podcast, Juddy.
Thanks, Hutch. It's nice to be on here with you.
Let's have you begin by sharing with our audience where you grew up, where you went to high school, college, your first job, etc.
Well, I grew up in Salt Lake City, went to Highland High School, played for Larry Maxwell, who was a fabulous coach, one of the better coaches in high school basketball. Then was recruited, not really heavily, but recruited enough with some schools. In fact, my first offer I ever had was from Air Force. But when I kind of went through the process, I ended up deciding between Utah State and Utah with the two schools. And Jerry Pym was the assistant coach at the time. And then he got the head job. That's the year Bill Foster left and took the Duke job from Utah. And Jerry Pym ended up getting the head coaching job at Utah. And so by him getting that, it kind of helped me because he was the one that was recruiting me the most as an assistant coach. So I felt very, very comfortable with him. So went and played at Utah for 4 years. Loved every minute of it. Had some really good teams. Played with some really good players. Played with Jeff Jonas, who was one of the best players ever up there. Definitely assist, but just a really good player. Played with Buster Matheny, who came in the same year I did, and Greg Dean and Earl Williams, and several other players. And then, of course, my freshman year, I got to play with my cousin, Danny Vrain. He was a freshman when I was a senior, but just had a great experience with college basketball. And then I was lucky. I got drafted in the NBA, 30th pick by the Boston Celtics. If I'd have been now, I'd have been a first-round pick. But at the time, there was only 23 teams, I think, or 24 teams that were in the NBA at that time. So I got drafted. The Celtics took Larry Bird first, and they took me second in the second round. So I got to play 1 year with Larry Bird. So basketball's been really good to me. I've had a lot of great things happen, and got to play and have a dream come true, which not very many people get.
That's awesome. Let's have you talk for a minute before you got to Highland, before you got to the University of Utah and the NBA.
Yeah.
Talk about youth sports opportunities. So for you, this would have been the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
Certainly not like it was now, but and of course you had all your brothers and a couple of sisters. But talk about, were you able to play Little League football, or was it just basketball for you? Did you do baseball?
No, Hutch, I did everything. I did baseball, basketball, football. At football, it was the Ute League at the time. Mm-hmm. And I played for, I think, 4 years. They called it the midget. That was the age group of 12-year-olds. I played for the midgets, and we end up winning the whole tournament. We were undefeated. I played quarterback. A lot of guys that went to Highland and played football were on that team. And so I got to play that. And then each year, of course, you moved up in football. You moved up to the Bantam, then you moved up to junior Bantam, and then you moved up to high school. In baseball, I played for Indian Hills League. It's over there by Bonneville Golf Course.
Right.
Uh, I'm trying to think. When I got there as 9-year-old, there's a guy named Bert Buxton. His son was Tom Buxton, who a lot of people know he owned the sports mall and things like that. And his dad coached me, and we went 3 years from my 10th grade year till 12. We did not lose a game in Little League. And when I got to be 12 years old, we went. Each year we went to the All-Stars, of course, and we got into. I don't know if it was the Elite 16 or whatever, but we had to win a couple of games, and then we got into this tournament, and we ended up playing Mount Olympus, which was a lot of guys from Granite and South, and these guys, that was kind of their league in that area. We ended up playing the Walkinshaws, and I pitched a one-hitter and lost, and the only hit I gave up was a home run. And the other pitcher pitched a no-hitter against us. So we ended up losing that game 1-0. But I played baseball and really loved baseball when I was a little kid. Basketball is not what it is today. There wasn't as many leagues. All we really had was a league called the National Guard, or the Bantam League, which was played at the National Guard Armory there over
At
by
the Armory.
University.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I was really lucky. I had 2 really good coaches. I had Fred Widener and Harold Christensen. Harold played for BYU, and Fred Widener played for Utah. And their 2 boys were a year younger than me, and they ended up coaching the team. And really they were good coaches. I really started off well, having guys that knew how to play and knew the game well. So we played. I played Little League with that. I wasn't the best player. Really, probably baseball was my best sport at a young age. I was probably the best in that, but basketball was probably my worst. Football, I was pretty good, and basketball, I just started growing and getting better, and my skills got better. But I played all 3 sports, and it's kind of sad right now. So many kids are getting focused in one sport, and if I would have done that, who knows what I would have done? I might have played baseball, and I wouldn't have had the opportunity to play like I did basketball. But my summers were shot. No vacation, didn't go anywhere, constantly playing ball, and some people say, well, yeah, you could miss. No, you can't miss when you're the starting quarterback, or you're the starting pitcher, or you're one of the best players on the basketball. You just can't leave. You can't leave your team in dry like that. So we didn't have a lot of time to really do things. We didn't go on a lot of vacations because of our sports.
Let me ask you this, Juddy. So I consider you, obviously, when I call you the poster child for interscholastic athletics, because obviously you went to Heine, and you obviously went on the university, played in the NBA. So I'm interested in someone who's not in athletic administration currently. Your view, you touched on it a minute ago, about kids specializing, but what's your thoughts on interscholastic athletics and some of the good things that are happening and some of the bad things that are happening?
What I think is good right now about the athletic and the high school association right now.
Yeah.
That what you want me to? I would say right now that a lot of kids are getting opportunities to show their talent. And what I mean by that, when I played, nobody knew anything. There was no AAU ball. There was no internet to be able to stream games. The only exposure we got was every Saturday, Bill Marcroft did a TV game of the week, and that was really about it. So college coaches, I got to see so many more kids so more often to get a better opportunity to evaluate them and really see what kind of player they are. I think secondly is getting scholarships in the schools that have so many more scholarships now. College, it seems like that these kids are being able to get that opportunity either, through so many different ways of being seen. And I think, you know, fans, I don't know if the kids are into it as much as they were when I was a player, but I think the general public, they know more what's going on a little bit with high school. The scores are being posted more. You know, the sad part of it is I think a lot of kids are getting burned out because the seasons are too long. I think they have basketball season, for example, you get done and then you start spring thing and then you go all summer and then you come back in fall and you never get a chance to just kind of relax. That part of it, I'm not real crazy about. That's why I thought playing a couple sports would be a really good thing. I know for me, Hutch, when I was coaching at BYU, I really like to get the athlete that played two sports. Most of the girls that I recruited either played soccer or volleyball or track or softball. They did something, even swimming. I had a girl that swam, that was a really good swimmer. And the reason I did that is because when they got to college, they didn't understand the commitment of practice and the time that it takes. And when a two athlete person understands that, like I tell my grandkids all the time, I said, I never went home in high school when the bell rang. I always was either doing football, basketball, or baseball. So I never had that opportunity to go home with everybody and get carpools and do all that. I never did that. I was always doing something sports wise. So it's a big commitment. People don't realize the commitment a lot of these athletes go through.
Juddy, let me ask you a little bit of a personal question here. What's your biggest failure or disappointment in life, and what did you learn from it?
I think my biggest disappointment that's hard for me was I had a lot of success. And then as I moved up the ranks, you know, you were the best player in your high school team, the best in college, and I got in the pros and I realized I wasn't the best. I was probably one of the worst. And that was hard. That was hard to accept that. Probably my biggest disappointment at least in high school, was we were undefeated and we played Provo in the semifinals my senior year, and we lost that game. And it was like our whole high school career, we were waiting for this moment to be able to win a state championship, and to have that slip through my fingers was really hard. You know, but then too, you know, I look at it and I had some ups and downs in my life, but those made me stronger and made me become a lot better player by not having everything all the time. When things come hard, you appreciate it a lot more. And so I think I kind of learned that way. But, you know, my parents were real positive. They tried to keep me in a positive way. When things were not that good, I never felt that. They were always, you know, encouraging me and cheering me on. And my dad was more honest. My mom was more of a cheerleader, but it was good for me.
Well, yeah, Gwen might be the nicest person I've ever known. So that's
Well,
good, you know, your mom.
You know, she did, Hutch, that I didn't really realize. She kept score, and she didn't keep score to boast, you know, to say how good her sons were playing basketball. She did it because she got nervous. And when she got nervous for the games, that really calmed her down. And surprisingly, she took better stats than I think the people that were on the table, because she just was so into that. My dad was not much of a yeller. He just sat and didn't say a lot to me until of course after the game and I came home. But both parents were a big part of my success.
That's awesome. Let me go back to your time at the University of Utah. Well, what year did you graduate? It was 78, if I remember.
Yeah, correct. I graduated in 78.
Talk about I remember
What?
78 only because I was, Deb and I drove to Wichita to see you and your teammates play in the Levin Arena when the NCAA tournament was only 32 teams.
Correct.
It was a Missouri team in double overtime that you beat.
Yeah, that was probably one of the worst games I ever played. in a big game. Buster Matheny was unbelievable, probably had a game of his life. Thank goodness. And, by me not playing as well, other people had to step it up. And it's a game I remember because I didn't do as well as I wanted to, but it was exciting to win that. Like you said, it was 32 teams, and we win that game, and then we go play Notre Dame. And we should have beat Notre Dame. They went in a box and won against me, and we just weren't ready for it. And the game was really close. And then that year, Notre Dame got into the Final Four. They beat us, and then they beat, I think, somebody else. I can't remember who it was before they went to the Final Four. So, we had some good teams, Hutch. We had some really good teams up there. My junior year, we lost to Vegas down in Provo.
Yeah.
It was really a close game, lost by 4. Then, of course, next year we lost to Notre Dame. So, I mean, we had some really good teams. And it was a lot different. It was hard to get in the NCAA tournament with 32 teams. It was a lot harder.
Absolutely. Talk for a minute about the legendary, at least in Utah, the legendary Judkins basketball camp. I think when I first started working at it, it was like 4J when you had Jeff Jonas.
Yeah.
It was Judkins Brains, and I know Thurl came on for a while, and then we had it at Murray, we had it at Skyline, we had it at East, I bet, and I took my my son Aaron to it, but I must have worked at camp 25 years, but if I understand right, you're still running the camp, you and Johnny.
Yeah, correct. I have a lot of grandkids that want to still do it. And so I'm willing to, plus I enjoy it. I wouldn't, if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it, but it's 49 years. I've had the grandpa, the father, and the son at the camp. That's how long I've done this. And when I first started, you're right, it was a 4J camp. It was with Jeff Jonas. And Jeff and myself did it right out of college. Nobody really had camps back then except for the college schools. And so we did it because we thought, we really like coaching and we like kids and we wanted to do it. And we thought we could make a little extra money. So we did it. And then it just kept getting bigger and bigger. By the time I was with Thurl and Danny, we had, you remember, Hutch, we had over probably 700 kids. And we were doing it 3 times a day for a week. And then Thurl, it was getting so big and so crowded, it was just hard. And I kind of wanted to have more of a personal camp with the players and the campers. And so Danny didn't want to do it anymore. And Thurl kind of wanted to go on his own. So we kind of split up. And that's when I just started doing it with my little brother. He was coaching at Snow at the time. And so we kind of did it together. And it was a lot of fun. And it's not, I don't advertise it a lot. It's more word by mouth, I guess. And people hear about it and then they come, and I it's just been a lot of fun. I've seen so many kids grow up and become really good players. And I've seen people that I've coached that they come to me and say, doing that camp really helped me in what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to go into medicine or I wanted to go into law, and it really helped me. And some of the greatest memories that I've ever had. And Dr. Chuck Rich, he brought all his boys, from day one, and that's a camp that he enjoyed going to his whole life. But it was a lot of fun. I've kind of bounced around a little bit with, like you said, Murray and East and Skyline and Highland. And now I have it at Skyline. It's usually the last week of July, first week of August, right in there, right before volleyball starts. And so it's been a lot of fun. I feel I have the generation, but I had a little contest last year. I said, bring the oldest camp shirt, Judkins camp shirt, and some kid brought a 94 shirt, was the best one so far. So if you got one, Hutch, better than that, next time you need to bring it in.
I think my grandson Isaac's, who's in Belgium right now, and I think he came to your camp 2 or 3 years ago. And I gave him, I might have given him a 4J shirt that I still had I can't remember if he took it, but I remember that because my daughter Tiffany now lives in the Olympus area. So I know she went to the camp. So that was, I remember back when I first started working for you, it was 2 weeks and it was at Highland. And it was like
Yeah, it
full
was a
day and
Highland
we
High
had
School.
lunch. And I want you to tell share with our listeners, because I thought it was classic. The year in the early 80s, I think Johnny was still in high school. You brought Larry Bird out. So he brought him out on a Friday so the Friday kids could see him. We went to Lake Powell for the weekend. He came back in Monday, said hi to the kids, and then flew out. But I remember being down at Lake Powell and him being on the boat with the rainstorm and the. So yeah, share that story with our audience.
Well, I played with Larry, and so that year I wanted him to come to my camp, and he said, "Sure, I'll do it." And I said, "Hey, if you come, you ought to come to Lake Powell." And so I set it up with some friends that I knew that had boats and whatever, and we even got it worked out where this guy would fly Larry and some of us down to Lake Powell, and so um, we flew down to Lake Powell and got down there and get on these boats. There was like 3 houseboats, and a lot of people. There were a lot of people that wanted to see Larry and everything, and as you mentioned, Hutch, we were one night we were tied on the buoy, getting ready to go beach it somewhere the next day, and a bad storm came in. And I've seen Larry. I was in Bulgaria, and we got into a fight with the Cuban team, and Larry. I've never seen him punch out more guys, and so he's a pretty tough guy. And when we got on this boat at Lake Powell and the water started getting pretty rough, he really got scared and he got really nervous. And I remember saying to him, "Hey, you're going to be all right. We got life jackets," but he wasn't that good a swimmer. So I think he was really concerned of what was going on. And that's really the first time that I saw him scared. I never seen him scared at a game. I never seen him scared with people. And so it was pretty bad. All those boats broke off the buoys and ran into the beach, if you remember. And
Yeah.
we were really quite lucky to really get out of there okay. And it's funny, I ran into him several years ago and went to the Final Four in Indiana, and we talked about it. We talked about that experience, but it was a lot of fun. It was fun having him come, and you'd be surprised how many kids still have the picture with him, Danny Vrains, and me at camp. And they'll send it to me, or they'll bring it to camp, or they'll bring it to a game or something and show me this picture that they show their kid. Hey, I was with Jeff and Larry Bird at camp, and so it was a lot of fun. I really have enjoyed camps, and I've enjoyed working them. I've enjoyed really getting players better and trying to help them get through things. And so hopefully I'll keep doing it. I still have a lot of grandkids, so
Good.
hopefully I'll do it.
The thing I remember about that when Larry was there was, of course, so you had like Charlie Whiting was there and a bunch of high school coaches, and there was a bunch of Utah boosters that obviously had the boat, and so they were all, they want to talk to Juddy and Vrains and Larry, and so all the high school coaches, we just kind of hung out by ourselves. We were fine, but I remember that night Larry saying, "I'd give $2,000 for a hotel room in Indiana right now." And of course, this is back in early 80s, so that was a significant amount of money. So
yeah,
let's go back.
Yeah,
Let's
go. Funny. Yeah,
let's go to your time now as an assistant at the University of Utah. When you're assistant there, obviously everyone remembers, at least I hope they remember, as Utah went to the Final Four during that time. But talk about the lessons you learned and what it was like to be able to coach as an assistant at your alma mater.
Well, it was really awesome. I mean, when Coach Majerus got the job, he gave me a phone call, and I was not really thinking about getting into coaching. I was working for a company called Safe Flight and really enjoyed the job. I was kind of away from basketball for a while, and when he offered me, kind of talked to me about the job and interviewed me, I thought, yeah, it'd be fun. It'd be fun to get back in it. And I heard after he talked with me that he called Larry Bird up and asked Larry Bird what he thought of me being a coach. And I think Larry told him I'd do okay. And so when Coach hired me, he pulled me in and he said, "You don't have a lot of experience, so I'm going to put you in this position, and you're not going to recruit the first year. We're going to let you just kind of feel your way around and kind of understand what college basketball is about. And so the first year was kind of just doing a lot of odds and end things. And then the next year, people don't remember, my first year, Coach Jarris had a heart attack. Yeah. And Coach Cravens had to take over, and he took over. And then the next year, Coach Cravens got a head job at Idaho. And so Majerus moved me up as a full-time assistant recruiting. And from that point on, I recruited pretty hard. It was, I kind of took care of a lot of the local kids and some other kids. And Donnie was kind of the one that went to the LA and the West Coast and San Francisco. And then Coach Majerus had his ties in the Mideast or Midwest. And so we just kind of worked together, really recruiting and our goal was to get to the Final Four. That was something we talked about a lot, and I think we had really 3 chances to do it. We did it one of the 3 times, and I think the one year we would have got there with Josh Grant's year if we wouldn't have met Vegas. Vegas won it that year, and we met him in the semifinals in Seattle, and we were ahead at half, and then they came back the second half and ran their amoeba defense, their zone, and it really shook us up. And then another time with Van Horn's senior year, we were playing Kentucky and Andre Miller got hurt. We were ahead, and we would have probably won that game. They pressed us, and we lost right at the end. And then, of course, our 98 team. That team was the most balanced team that I coached. And we had a lot of good role players that did their job. And sometimes the most talented team doesn't always win. Sometimes the team that knows how to play together and take advantage of what they can get usually is the one that comes on top. And that's how that team was. I didn't realize, Hutch, how big we were. And what I mean by that is look at our starting lineup. We had Dolyak 6'11", Hano 6'10", Alex Jensen 6'8", Drew Hansen 6'6", and Andre Miller 6'3". And then coming off the bench, we have Nate Altoff, who's 7 foot, Brent Johnson 6'11", Trace Caton 6'7". David Jackson was not as tall, but he was 6'4", and he was chiseled. And then we had Jordy McTavish, I think, McTavish, and he was about 6'1". So we had a really big team. We had our 20-year kind of reunion. I went to that for part of it, and I just couldn't realize how big we were.
Yeah, that was it. And so talk about, because I can just remember, if I got this right, I think you beat Lute Olson in Arizona by 25 in the Western Finals.
Yeah.
And then I think you beat, was it North Carolina in the national
Correct.
semi?
Yeah, our first game
Henley,
was
that's playing in the Final Four.
And
coaching incredible.
Yeah, we our first game was San Francisco, and we blew them out. Then our next game was Arkansas, and they full court pressed. And if we wouldn't have had Brenton Johnson, we would have lost because they double teamed Andre Miller, and nobody else could bring the ball up comfortably but Brenton. And so we brought him in, and he had to bring the ball up with that pressure. And then we won that game by, I think, 6 or 8. It was a really close game. And then the next game we played, West Virginia beat Cincinnati. So you gotta have luck sometimes. Cincinnati was the #1 team in the country then, and West Virginia beat them. And we come down and play West Virginia in Anaheim, and it's a close game. They hold the ball. It was right down the wire, and we had to score a couple key baskets right at the end to win. So then we match up with Arizona. Arizona won it the year before. They were a second-seeded team. They lost some games in the Pac-12, so it kind of hurt them. But they had everybody back from the team that won it. And I'll never forget the night after we beat West Virginia. We went in the film room, and Coach Majerus went out with his buddies all night, and he showed up at 1:30 in the morning. We're still sitting in the film room, all the coaches, and we said, "Coach, this might sound crazy, but we think we should go a triangle and two." And he said, "You guys have been thinking." Yeah, we called it 66. And Coach said, "I've been thinking that too, and I think we need to do that." And so we did the famous 66 against Arizona, and they really struggled. They didn't know what to do. It's funny, we left an NBA player who played in the league for probably 5-6 years. We left him wide open, and he couldn't hit a shot. And that's when Andre Miller probably had one of the greatest games I think the youth ever had, a triple-double, and 25 points, and I think 15 rebounds and 13 assists. And he just took over the game. And then, of course, like you said, we got in the Final Four, and I'll never forget this. In the old days, I don't know if they do it anymore, but before the Final Four, they'd let fans come in and watch you practice. And so my family all came out for the San Antonio. They came out for that Final Four. So my dad went to the practices, and after they were over, we went out to dinner that night, and he said, "Jeff, you guys are going to get killed. You have no chance of beating these guys. They're so much more athletic." And I said, "Dad, watch, we're going to make them play our game. When they play our game, we're good at it." And that's what we did. We made North Carolina play half-court ball. We didn't let them fast break, and we just really kept the game under control. And people don't remember this, but Drew Hansen, we lost, I think, one game.
Drew Hansen, a kid from Tooele that you recruited.
Yeah. We lost at New Mexico, and he missed 2 big foul shots that cost us the game, and he felt horrible. And I remember when he did that, he came up to me and he says, I just got too nervous. And I told him, so next time this situation happens to you, just move back from the foul line a little bit farther, because you got so much adrenaline, you always shoot long. So he gets in the North Carolina game, and you can see it on tape. He looks over at the bench, and I'm sitting there. He's fouled, crucial foul shot. He looks over at the bench, and I kind of tell him, move back a couple inches from the foul line. And he moves back, and he hits both of them. And when the game gets over with, he comes up to him, and he goes, "Coach, thank you so much for telling me to move back." And I said, "Drew, it had nothing to do with you moving back. The only thing I did was get your mind to think of moving back and not worry about missing the shot." And that's how basketball is. Basketball is so mental that a lot of players, you just got to mentally get yourself ready. And so he hit those big foul shots, which we won the game. And we should have beat Kentucky. We just ran out of gas. I think part of it is we played so hard against North Carolina. It took a lot out of us. But great memories. I mean, that was probably one of the most exciting times of my life in basketball.
That's awesome. So now let's have you take us from, you're an assistant at Utah, you'd been to the Final Four, and then you get this opportunity to become the head women's coach at BYU. How does that happen? And then take us through all those great championships you had down there.
Well, I always wanted to be a head coach, and I was with Rick for 10 years, and things started happening where he was bringing in some of his friends and a lot of other stuff. And plus it was probably time for me to try another place. And I really didn't want to move away from Utah. I wanted to stay. And so Coach Cleveland gave me an opportunity to go down and help him with the BYU team. People don't remember, but Cleveland got the job after Roger Reed. It was out of Coach Cleveland and me. We were the final 2 of that job, and he got it. And so we coached a couple of years against each other, and then I decided to go down there and help him, and I did that. And after 2 years, Coach Elaine Michaels, who was the AD for the women's side of BYU, decided she wanted to get a new basketball coach, and I was helping the women's team as a partial help. And she just felt like it was a good opportunity for me to take over that program. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be a head coach. I knew that if I went into that, my chances of getting a men's job would be hard. But I also thought that maybe I could get either the Utah men's job or maybe the BYU men's job when those coaches left by being here. And so I went down and I accepted the job, and it was a whole new experience for me. I had some really good players. Erin Thorne was a big part of BYU's success. She was the best player that I probably have coached down there. And it just kept going, and I just kept going and going. I kept thinking maybe I'll leave and go somewhere else, but I just enjoyed my time there. I enjoyed the players. I enjoyed every part of being down there. I didn't feel like I was working. It felt like it was just a dream come true for me, and was there for 21 years as the head coach. And if I look back now, I go, man, it went fast. Just didn't seem like it was that long, that long ago that I was out doing it. So enjoyed it. People say to me, why did you do it? And why'd you do this? And part of the reason I did, it's like this: you have a daughter and you have a son. So my question is, as a parent, do you cheer more for your son than you do your daughter when they're performing in anything that they're doing? And that's how I felt. I felt like it was basketball. It was my program. It was the way I could run it. It's the way I wanted to do things. I hired the people that I felt were the best to help me and BYU. And I took it very seriously. It wasn't something I just thought, it's women's ball. No, I wanted to be the best. My dream was to get the Final Four with that team too. And we came close too. We came really close with a couple games.
Well, and if I remember right, you were there 21 years, I'm guessing, because I don't know but you either won the championship outright or the conference championship tournament. I would say 2 out of every 3 years, or probably 3 out of every 4 years.
Well, we were really lucky, Hutch. My 21 years, we went to the NCAA tournament 13 times, and then I only had 3 seasons where I didn't go postseason, and one was COVID, and the other one it wasn't COVID. It was the year right, the 2020. We could have gone to the NIT, but we didn't go because they shut everything down. And so, so we were pretty successful. Somebody said to me, I didn't really realize. They said, I won at BYU. I think I won 5 tournament championships. And I was in the finals 10 times, and 4 of the finals, we lost on a last second shot. That we would have won the game, but another team hit the last second shot and beat us. And so I could have maybe had a few more, but it's not winning championships. It's building relationships with your players and people that are around the program. That's what it's all about. I feel like I had a good relationship with all of the players that I coached. A lot of them still contact me to this day. And, and a lot of the coaches that I coach with, I have a good relationship with all of them. And so that's been the best thing for me. That's the thing that you miss. You don't miss the playing, you don't miss the winning, you don't miss the losing for sure, but you miss being around the people that you enjoy.
No question. And I remember because because I coached girls at Jordan all through the 80s for 10 years, and still coached when I first became the AD. But it's coaching women's a little bit different. I mean, obviously high school girls different than college girls, but still there's a different vibe to it. And in a lot of ways, I think it's more fulfilling. So
it is. You have to. It's more fundamentals. You just don't give it to a person where they can just drive and beat everybody or jump over everybody. You have to work as a team a little bit more. And the girls were hard workers. The girls really wanted to succeed. And, they would come to me all the time and say, what can I do better? What can I do? And some girls you could get on, some girls you can't, just like guys. There's some guys you could get after, and and get them to play better. And some guys you couldn't, and it's the same way. And but I really enjoyed it. I felt like I was coaching something that I could really help these young ladies in so many different ways.
Well, you did an incredible job. So thank you for that. And let's finish up with a couple of points. Now, I always ask this, as you know, normally I have high school athletic directors on the podcast. Every once in a while, I get somebody famous like you. So I'm interested in someone who is not a high school athletic director. And if you were to talk to a new AD at a high school that's just starting out now, and you gave them 2 suggestions in order to be a success, from your point of view, what would the 2 things be that this person would have to do in order to become a successful AD at a high school?
Well, first of all, the AD has to make sure that the coaches know that he has their back, or she has her back. It could be, I know there's ADs that are women and men, which is awesome. But the coach needs to know that the athletic director has their back. And how do you do that as an AD? You do that by supporting the team and letting the coach coach, and giving the coach your support of that you believe in their system, that you believe what they're doing is best for all the athletes at the high school. Second thing I do as an AD is I would make sure I got to know all the athletes that are playing. You got to know them by first name basis, so that when you go to the game and you go to their events or whatever that they're doing, that you can shout out to them, and they know that you know them. They know that you care of what they're doing and how they're doing it. Then I would say that the next thing would be do whatever you can to publicize your program the best you can. That means that you support everything. That means that you go to events, talk about it, talk to people, tell people how excited you are of what you're doing at whatever high school that you're at, and make sure that they all know that. And then probably last but not least, I probably would make sure that the schools that are bringing, so that the junior highs that are coming into your high school, make sure that you know the principal and the vice principals and know the people there, so that you can always get a good rapport of what kids are coming, what kids that you need to really follow and watch. Like I know this, the AD at Skyline High School, when Danny Brains is coming from Churchill, that he should know Danny Brains is coming from Churchill to Skyline, and those kind of things. And then I think last, just be yourself as an AD. Be who you are, and you got that position because you know what you're doing. And I always thought, I kind of saw you at work, Hutch, because you worked my camps, but you were always involved. You were always involved in every single thing that Jordan was doing. You were involved in it, and you weren't afraid to share it. And I think that's what's really important, is to get that. You got to be proud of your school, and you got to be proud of what your coaches and what they're doing.
That is so well said. Thank you for sharing that. We'll finish with this, Juddy. What question should I have asked you that I failed to ask you?
Well, how many kids did I have? How many grandkids I have?
All right, well then let's go there, because
I'll answer that.
I know all your kids, but I don't know all your grandkids. So share that with us.
Well, I have 5 children. 3 of them live here. 1 lives in Wyoming and 1 lives in North Carolina. Jessica, Jordan, and Jamie live here, and Jenna lives in Wyoming, and Jackson lives in North Carolina. In fact, Jackson just got done with his doctorate degree in sports psychology and counseling, and he's working for a company in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I'm excited for him, and he'll enjoy what he's doing. We have 20 grandchildren, 15 boys and 5 girls. And all of them now are starting to get involved in athletics and school things. I have a couple granddaughters that are really musical, and I have some grandsons that are into the band and they're into athletics. And so it's a fun time for Mary Kay and me to go see them play and perform. And, as a grandparent, you don't worry as much as you did as a parent. You just you're there to love your grandkids and know that they have your support, and that you're proud of them and you're glad that they're doing things. So I've been doing that and, keeping busy with trying to, my NBA body's beat up, Hutch. It's my back's starting to bother me, my neck, my knees, all of the years that I pushed myself and tried to be there is now paid. It's made my back and everything bad. I've got to get some surgery this year on that and get some of my health issues taken care of. I guess the other thing people probably don't know that much about me. I love the outdoors. I love to ride my horses. I've got 6 horses that I ride and enjoy that. That really, when I was coaching, it really took a lot of stress off me. But I just want to spend time and do things with my family and enjoy life, and hopefully, hopefully be able to travel a little bit. And a lot of my friends now are retired, getting retired, and so it's kind of nice, Bill, that we can start doing some things together that way.
That is awesome. On that note, that wraps it up for this edition of the UIAAA Connection. Once again, our special guest today has been Jeff Judkins. In the basketball world, college, NBA, from high school, famous basketball mind, as we talked about, camp for years and years. Juddy, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks a lot, Hutch. Appreciate you asking me.
For our listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.